Hey, welcome back to the Third Pint Theory.
Kia
This is
ora.
the Kia ora, Martin. This is the penultimate episode of 2025, our debut season. You're with Michael Donaldson, the editor of Pursuit of Hoppiness, and my co-host,
Martin Bridges.
yes, the beer bigwig, and we're here to talk. I suppose about beers that we don't really love that much. It's, that might seem a weird way into it. Um, but this episode is all about hazies.
Yeah,
And Martin, you should be wearing your t-shirt.
I should. I should. But I do. For those of you who've not seen it, I do own a T-shirt which my wife procured for me, um, which is in the very much in the Donald Trump "Make America Great Again" white font on a red shirt, which says "Make IPA Clear Again." Um,
Not going to happen, Martin.
I, I,
Well,
I think
yeah,
I've lost that battle,
yeah,
but
yes,
it is ironic. Obviously, it is. I think um, I think there are a lot of people who I think it was maybe when a few years ago when we went through a period where hazies were just everywhere, and it was just this explosive growth of um, hazy IPAs, and it felt like the other styles were just getting swamped and pushed out by
yeah,
that kind of explosive growth in hazies now. And it was not we want hazies to go away. It was we want there to be other things as well.
yes, yes. And so I will point out that the reason we're talking about hazy IPAs is that it's the last of our Beervana live Q&A sessions, and it's on the topic of hazy beers, featuring James Cooper from Lakeman Brewing and his brewer Laura, who joined us on the stage, and along with Andrew Childs from Behemoth, who is known to churn out a hazy or two, or three or 17 a week. That may be a slight exaggeration. People do not take it seriously, but a lot of hazies. Um, but Martin, I was also thinking in relation to this because I was telling you before we came on air that I had just written my February column for Kiora magazine. Over the summer, there's a super long lead time. And so I'm scratching my brain thinking, what am I going to write about in February 2026? And I'm sitting here, it's still November when I'm writing this. And then I suddenly remembered that 2026 marks 10 years since the first proper hazy arrived in New Zealand, courtesy of Garage Project's Party and Bullshit. And I'm sure you remember. Do you remember that Malt House West Coast IPA
I
challenge?
I do remember um,
Yeah.
Garage Project taking the piss,
Yes. Yeah.
really, by
Yeah.
entering what was clearly not a West Coast IPA in the West Coast IPA Challenge.
Yeah. But it had the required effect. It got people going, like, what is this?
Yeah,
And it's hard to believe that 10 years ago we didn't really know these things existed. I mean, I know I had read about New
yeah.
England IPAs. I don't think I'd seen the term hazy. I'd
I don't
certainly heard
think
New
I don't
England.
think I had. I'd heard about NEPAs,
Yes,
New England IPAs, things like Heady Topper and so on that
yeah,
were,
Treehouse were.
were popping up in the US, but I hadn't heard of any in New Zealand. I suspect there probably were some. I just wasn't aware of them.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, because New Zealand would have been people making unfiltered beers. There's no doubt about that. Um, but they weren't deliberately hazing them up with all the kind of not adjuncts, but the wheat and the oats and um, the specific yeasts that don't flocculate that well, and the hops that throw a bit more haze. Um, all the things that you can do to contrive that hazy look and make it more accentuated, I guess.
Mm,
And it's interesting you mentioned Heady Topper because that's the beer that really started all this. That everyone
mm.
traces back the hazy origin story. And I mean, probably we haven't got time to go into all the detail of that, but you know, effectively they made it such a FOMO beer that you know you can only buy it from the brewery on this day of the week, and you can only buy a maximum of X cans. To the point where it was so limited and so defined in its availability that they had queues of people in
Yeah,
their cars up the road. And that kind of story breeds another story about what's all the fuss about. And then suddenly, you've got a cult beer and everyone wants to find out how do they do that and what's it all about and what does it taste like. And, so kudos to them for, for starting this craze by, yeah, their,
yeah, and I think, and it happened really quick in New Zealand. Then after that, I think I seem to
yes,
remember it kind of went from that, from passing bullshit, kind of popping up, that suddenly they were everywhere, and there was this kind of sudden ramp up uh, of hazy beers popping up everywhere, and then it seemed to go very quickly into that everything has to be a hazy. There
yeah,
were there were people. I remember talking to bar owners who and brew pub owners, I guess, who didn't at that time brew a hazy, and people coming in
mm,
and saying, "What have you got that's hazy?" And when they said, "Well, nothing," then people would
yeah,
turn around and walk out.
yeah, yeah. And look, it's interesting, and I do think that they got so popular, and there was that feeling that that's all you can get, and as you said earlier, that you wanted more of other things. But I think the demand was so crazy and so heavy for a while, and a lot of breweries don't have huge tank space, and we've got to brew this really popular beer, and that means we can't do other things
Mm,
because we need to make so much of this. And that's why there was probably less of other stuff, I think. And Parrot Dog, I think, are a really good example. They literally had to do one of their crowdfunding campaigns to get more stainless so that they could brew other stuff instead of Bird's Eye, you know.
yeah,
And that was how popular that beer is. It's still remarkably popular. And they couldn't not brew it, you know. It's people wanted it, they had to keep making it. So I do think there was a bottleneck, if you like, in the production capacity for a while. And
yeah.
then plus there's let's just push it and push it and push it until we tip it past the edge. And I think it's come into some balance now, for sure.
I agree, and
Um,
I think that that's in the interview with with James and with Andrew. That's one of the things that came out. We've not gone past the peak. I think we've kind of leveled out, and there are there are always going to be a lot of hazy beers around, but there is space around them for other
yeah,
style.
yeah. And look, we also can't maybe sit here and you can't criticize people for wanting them. That's, you know, people are going to buy what they're going to buy, and they work for a reason. People love them for a reason because
Yep.
it's that hop character that people are getting into these beers, and it's so juicy, fruity, um, tropical sweet citrus as opposed to kind of grapefruit bitterness. And the soft mouthfeel, the texture, the sweet finish, not bitter, all those things people love, like they love those flavors. And
Absolutely. And I think it was, I remember once talking to a bar owner about why did they like hazy beers. And he said, because it makes my crowd more diverse. Because it
oh,
brings
mm,
people in who were not beer drinkers before,
mm,
and a lot of that, I think, comes from that fruitiness as opposed to bitterness. Um,
yeah,
that does kind of just broaden the demographic, and it appeals to a wider market. It brings more people into the different people into the bar, and I think
yeah,
that's a good thing.
yeah. And of course, there's all the extensions of hazy that are now on the market where it's very fruit driven.
Yep.
There's mango hazy IPAs and guava hazy IPAs and passion fruit. And I'm trying to think. Then you go into the milkshake side of it where there's more fruit and lactose added. And
Yep.
but the thing is, it's a bit like I had this conversation I can remember with Luke Nicholas and super hoppy beers, and people go, "Oh, I don't like them; they're too bitter." And it's like you don't have to order it, but there's enough people who will order it,
Yes.
and it's and if there's people there who want it, and you might hate a milkshake IPA, you might think it's a really gross, terrible thing, but no one is making you buy it. But you have to acknowledge that there is someone who wants to buy it, and you can't outlaw these things. We're not, it's not it's not Germany 1516. It's
Yeah.
um, yeah,
You can
and
wear a T-shirt that ironically says
yes,
"Make IPA clear again," though. So
yeah, and you know when you put these, and it happened at Beervana when we were putting out the samples for these beers, and I can't remember specifically what they were, but they were delicious. They were absolutely
mm,
delicious, and people are going, "Yum, that's great," And I, I am known to occasionally have one. I struggle to finish a 440 ml can as a rule. Luckily, I've always got someone to share it with. But whereas I can knock back a couple of pilsners no trouble with a hazy. I find it fills me up. And then a 330 ml can's probably enough. So
mm.
yeah, but that's fine because I'm not the target market necessarily. So
No, I think it's hazies are here to stay, and I think they're getting better. The quality is improving. I remember certainly in some of those early days there were some fairly sandpapery beers,
yeah,
um, but the brewers have learned. And again, in the interview, we'll talk a bit. They talk a bit about what those techniques are and what to look out for and
yeah.
so on.
I think probably without further ado, rather than us talking about it, we should hand it over to some experts. So we'll let you listen to this Q&A from Beervana back in August, and we will join you on the other side. Enjoy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Sweet.
good afternoon, Beervana. Hello, Cleveland. Welcome to the Third Pint Theory stage. I'm Martin Bridges, they call me the beer bigwig. Distributing beers in the audience at the moment is Michael Donaldson. We are the Third Pint Theory. We have a podcast, and today we're going to be talking to some legends of the New Zealand brewing industry. We have Andrew from Behemoth Brewing. We have James and Laura from Lakeman Brewing. And we're going to be talking about the Haze Craze. So since it's your beer, James, that's going out there first, we'll start with you, and we'll ask the question: why do people like hazy beer? We know that they do because there's loads of it out there. Why do people like hazies?
I don't really know, be the honest question. I think, to me, I think it's just a little bit sweeter on the palate. New Zealand palate, I think, is a little bit sweeter than elsewhere in the world, and I think that's, we just love it. Yeah.
And it is popular, isn't it? What proportion of your sales would be hazies?
Laura, you brew them?
I want to say we got 3 hazies, 4 or 5 in our core range. So I reckon at least a third, maybe more, but under half, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that? We'll let Andrew give his view on why hazies are so popular.
Why hazies are so popular? Well, is that there's one part. It's traditional, West Coast IPAs, American IPAs, just non-hazy IPAs are known for their bitterness, and that can be abrasive for people who are newer to craft beer, and some people who just don't like that. So it's probably got more people into craft beer than it's got more people into craft beer than any other style. Juicy, and it's just a different expression of hops than West Coast. I personally drink a lot more West Coast than hazies, but I make a lot of hazies. And same answer, we're probably 65% hazies in our production, probably around about that.
We were remiss to just introduce the beer. So James or Laura, what have people got in their hands right now?
So I got a new beer called Boom Boom. We did for Beervana. It's only about 3 days old. A little bit green. Idaho 7, Citra, and Rakau.
Oh, and Michael has just helpfully put a glass into my hand. So, yeah, that's very nice. What sort of flavor profile do you think? What sort of flavor profile does this beer give? What do you think people are tasting?
I think you definitely get a pop of tropical fruit, maybe a bit of melon on the end there. But yeah, definitely bursting with flavor, hence the name Boom Boom.
Yep, it's certainly it's certainly fruity. There's a heck of a lot of fruitiness in there. I'd certainly getting that. Any thoughts from the audience on this beer? Oh, there's somebody here who has a thought.
It's just always been my belief that hazies are just so easy to drink. That's what makes them so popular.
And brewers always like when beers are easy to drink because that means that people will drink more of them, and that's a good thing. I think one of the other things I've noticed, and certainly talking to bar owners, is that they've said to me that hazies have diversified their clientele. It does bring a wider range of people into the bar, so that's a positive thing. What about making hazies? Because I'm sure there are some challenges. What are some of the challenges in executing a hazy beer well?
I would say just making sure that the finishing mouthfeel is good. So you don't want to have it too sweet, but you don't want to have it too dry either. And then definitely making sure you get that haze and you don't have it drop out about. You want to make sure no clarity, a lot of haze, make it look like a good beer.
Anything to add to that, James?
Yeah, I think Andrew's the king here, making sure the beer stays hazy. There's quite an art in that. A few tricks of the trade.
You don't want to have to tell bars to shake the keg every session.
No, and I know we're not the only ones. I've been to bars before and said they poured me the wrong beer, but yeah.
Yeah, hazies move. Our biggest selling keg beer is our lagers, and then hazies, Brain Smiles. It was the first hazy 6-pack in New Zealand, and kind of went from there. But makes it? They're not easy. So people think that hazy is lazy because you don't have to filter it, and it's not true. It needs a lot of good conditioning because otherwise you have too much hop burn. And that at some big American hazy breweries, they love hop burn. And I'm talking about big hype breweries. And that's kind of a New England hazy, and people are like, that's not New England. It's like, well, all the styles originated in New England. And I did a big research trip probably 9 months after we did our first hazy and went to all those big hype breweries. And I have to say that I prefer the New Zealand hazies than those big hype brewery hazies. They're just so raw, it's like chewing on hop pellets. And that might sound fun, but there's not much sessionability in chewing on a hop pellet. So well conditioned, well balanced, balance of sweetness, juiciness, aroma, flavor. Haze stability is important because no one wants a hazy that's not very hazy. And I'm going to put it out there, and I haven't said this in front of anyone, I'm good at saying things that I shouldn't, is we did a hazy and one of our brewers decided to dry hop things differently than we usually did, and it just dropped nearly bright, but not quite bright. And that beer became known as a unfiltered IPA and not a hazy IPA. Still delicious, but not the beer it was meant to be. I was like, well, you're going to dump this. And I was like, well, it still tastes good. It's just not what it meant to be. And I was like, and that beer is called, I'm not going to tell you. If you look at the supermarkets right now, you might see it. It's got a dinosaur on it. But yeah, great beer, but not what it was meant to be. So like really following process, and like there is an art and a science to it. It's not just throwing shit against the wall and see if it sticks to make a consistently good hazy. So yeah, something that I'm very proud of my team of executing well.
I think one of the other things I would mention probably around that is freshness.
Absolutely.
I think that hazies don't like age. They don't like oxygen. So I think if you buy hazy beers, drink them straight away. Don't hang on. They're not.
Age your
for
imperial
summer.
stouts and your barley wines, not your frickin' hazies, okay? Because that's just not a good time.
I haven't been keeping up because I've been pouring beer. But James, can I ask you, as a brewer, do you like making this style of beer?
Yeah, some days. I'll be honest, probably don't do a lot of the brewing now. Laura here actually probably rakes in about some of them 400 kilos at a time by hand into the brew kit, and look up at her at awe. Should be probably the one to ask about whether she likes them or not, but I think they're a good challenge to make, and I think it's probably more the challenge of making them. Yeah.
Maybe Laura, you could speak to what is the challenge of making this type of beer and making it really well, because like there are things that can go wrong. You can get, yeast problems potentially. You can get hop burn if you've got too much character in there.
Yeah, I think you can say brewing is simple, but I think it comes down to the small details, honestly. Temperature you're mashing in at can make a difference. You want to make sure you have a good mouthfeel and just a good balance, because you can throw a lot of hops into a beer and not filter it and call it hazy, but you want to make sure it has that good round, full body. Yeast can have a big impact, because if you stress it out, then you're going to have that bit of off flavor. But yeah, some hazies I love making. The bigger ones are definitely a challenge because we got a manual system, but it definitely is fun to play around with different hop combinations on the American and New Zealand side and see what you can get out of it.
Well, that hop combinations is an interesting one. And I might throw across to Andrew, but first of all to say, what are we drinking now?
We are drinking our Double Bounce, Double Hazy IPA, 8%, made for Beervana. If anyone hasn't seen, we have a bouncy castle, so come along and have a bounce, hence the name of the beer. And if you didn't grow up with a trampoline, obviously a double bounce is where you purposely bounce someone so they go flying in the air and potentially onto the ground and have an ACC claim. Do not do that on my bouncy castle. But seriously, this beer, we actually brew a lot. Most of our double hazies and triple hazies are brewed for China, because that's what China wants, is 8 to 10% hazy things. They're crazy for it. So, some of this is going to China. It's about 2 weeks old, because I think that's when our container left about a week ago over there. The hops are Citra, Cryo, Citra, Mosaic, and Motueka. So some classic big American fruity things. We hand select all of our Citra and Mosaic from Yakima, Washington, in the United States, and our Motueka here from Clayton Hops. Go Clayton Hops! Whoop whoop! And yeah, juicy, fruity, big, bold. You know, it's. I should probably drink some, huh?
Hey, have you ever like put a hop combo in and then just gone, nah, doesn't work?
Absolutely. There are some hops that I hate. There are some hops that I...
Do tell.
Oh, what do I hate? Australian hops are super inconsistent. Like when they're good, they're really good, and when they're shit, they're really shit. Yeah. So we don't use them anymore. Okay. And also they're kind of a pain in the ass to deal with, so I just don't... Life's too short to deal with people who are a pain in the butt. Not because they're Australian, just because there's certain companies are a pain in the ass. Is there a rep here? She was here yesterday.
We can edit this, of course, later.
Are we recording? Jesus. Yeah. Other hops are just really challenging, and like hops that are great if you use them in small, like Sabro is a really challenging hop. We use that in Juice Wayne, which is like a really big seller for us now, but it's like 20% of the dry hop. And it's good if you use it in small amounts. You get that little slight hint of coconut, but if you use too much of it, it's a bit overpowering.
Yeah. James, what about you in terms of, have you got favourite hops that you like to use?
Definitely Citra. Idaho 7's becoming a favourite.
Idaho 7?
Yeah.
What do you like about that?
I think it just adds another dimension with the Citra. Just, I guess, boosts it. Definitely like using some of the cryos, mixing the cryos in there. Can take a bit of the harshness out, intensify the sweetness of the flavour. Sweet navel flavours come through. We like using Sabro, Talus, that sort of thing, to add that coconut sometimes. But like Andrew says, too much can dodge it. Yeah.
All right. Hey, just quickly, does everyone know about Lakeman and their brewery and where they're located and their backstory? No? All right. A good opportunity. Just, can you tell us a little bit, like, so they're in Taupo and James is a farmer, and just tell us how you came to put a brewery on your farm.
I met Andrew in a pub one night in Taupo, didn't I, mate? Isn't that where it got started? Had a few bourbons.
That was a good night.
I can't remember. So we, I think it was about 11 years ago now, Alyssa and I bought a farm and we moved onto it, and we were looking for diversification. And at the same time, Lake Taupo was getting, the farmers were getting, how to put it, consented for farming regarding nitrogen and how much livestock we could carry. And so I was in Australia. My last name was Cooper. A mate gave me a bottle of Cooper's, and had a light bulb moment, and we'll start a brewery. Use that water and start a brewery, and turn the negative into positive, hopefully, and that's where we went.
Yeah. The water. Now that's really interesting because you use your bore water.
Yeah.
Does that have a distinctive characteristic when it comes to beers like this?
I think so, because we don't add a lot of minerals. I think most brewers that come to the brewery go, we've got to add all these minerals, change the water profile. We've actually had it analysed, and it's actually pretty good, pretty neutral water. So we just add a bit of acid, and obviously we did a beer recently with Sam Williams, and I said, no, we'll keep the water profile the same. Won gold, so... Yeah.
And what about you, Andrew? What do you do with water?
Well, we're breweries in central Auckland, so we filter the fuck out of our water. And then we add in the things that we want to have in there. And that's kind of true for most places in the world. Like different places in the world have different water profiles, and they go with that. But if you want to brew styles from around the world and make them good, like having a neutral base is the best way to go to be able to make a lot of different styles. And I have to say, Hazy's pay the bills and they let me brew other styles that aren't hazy. Like we win gold for lagers and stouts and stuff like that. And Belgian beers I love making. Unfortunately, none of these beers sell very well, but that's why we make a lot of hazy, so we can brew other styles that are not hazy. But yeah, it's the water profile is everything.
So, talking about hazies selling well, we talked about, that they are a big part of both of your businesses. But have we reached peak haze?
Yes, but we've reached it at a very high spot. And if it stays here, it's still going to be the biggest thing in craft beer. I think it's reached its peak, but that peak is really high. So they're not going anywhere. I don't think we reach peak and it's going to start going down. We reach peak and it could go up or down 1 or 2%, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. But if we've reached peak hazy, I don't think that's a bad thing. It probably just means that everyone who likes hazies, and people go through ups and downs of hazies, but it's not a bad thing. It's reached a peak at a high place.
What about you, James? You think?
Yeah, I think we have reached that peak with hazies. Obviously, said in the brew house with the amount that we brew, and yeah, just gotta keep bringing new hazies out, I suppose. And yeah.
My take on it was that, like Andrew said, I think it's, yes, maybe we've reached peak, but that peak is Table Mountain. we're plateaued. They're still out there, but hopefully, maybe you get to make some different styles, and you get to come up with that.
I think it's population related, and that's why I think we all enjoy making other styles, but they don't sell because we haven't got a big enough population and we struggle. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It kind of makes our market a little bit boring that way, I'll be honest, but yeah.
So, what do you think the future for hazies? What do you think in terms of, are there new hop combinations to try? Are there new hop? I know that there are a lot of new hop products, hop oils, flake, all these kinds of things. Do you think those will have an impact on brewing hazies?
Yeah, absolutely. Like our NZ IPA challenge, we used 2 different new trial hops, and they're just really interesting. One was quite dank and one was quite tropical, fruity, and the combination of those was like, we didn't win, but we did okay. But it was different and interesting. And a lot of what hazies get stick for is like, man, they all taste the same. And I was like, they don't all taste the same. You just don't have a good enough palate to notice the differences. So one thing that can make hazies taste the same is that a lot of us use a similar yeast strain, and it's more the esters from that yeast strain that make things a little bit similar rather than the hops always, apart from the fact that everyone loves Citra and Mosaic. Brain Styles did it first, just saying. But it was everyone. It's that kind of Citra, Mosaic, and something else. It's a proven recipe, and I think that what I really love is all New Zealand hopped hazies, because they are quite different than American hopped, and it's quite a different profile. And I don't think they're as same. They're more polarizing. Because like Citra Mosaic, it just tastes great. That's why it's used so much. But New Zealand hops make hazies quite different. And I'm in the States a lot, not now because I make fun of Trump a lot and I don't want to get arrested. But American breweries freaking love New Zealand hops because they just make hazies that much more different than what they can use having their domestic hops.
Okay. Laura, do you have any thoughts on kind of developments in hazies?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for experimenting. Like, there are new products coming out. We've seen the start of hot boils. So I think we haven't quite worked with them much yet, but getting there, and who knows what we'll see in the future. But I think there's more than your just typical T90 or cryo hops. Definitely pushing the envelope in terms of trying to be creative with it, and can use a different yeast strain if you want to add a bit of a background flavor to it. And yeah, like, similar to what he said, New Zealand hops. I'm from Canada, in case you couldn't tell by the accent. And a lot of brewers I find are envious of just having those New Zealand hops like at the tip of your fingers, easily accessible, can get your hands on whatever's new and experimental coming out there, like the new trial hops they bring out for that New Zealand IPA competition. So, yeah, I think hazies are here for a while. Maybe change up a bit with the different products you use, see what new flavors you can get, but definitely here to stay.
That's cool. Have we got any we're getting close to time. We got any more questions from the audience on hazy beers?
Do you have your own yeast strains, or do you share with any other breweries? Like, where do you get your yeast from?
Nah, so we have switched to just one yeast strain for all our beers. Two. We used to have another, but we found just the standard ale yeast seems to work. Haven't experimented too much beyond that, but if it's working, it's working, and probably keep it that way. Won't experiment too much.
We use probably the most popular strain for hazy's London Ale 3. As a joke, I think some American brewers, I was like, oh, they're working on London Ale 4. Well, it's just a piss take. It's kind of the same thing. But we actually have started using a new high alcohol yeast strain, which we use with this beer, which is meant for high gravity hazies. Because we were brewing all these big beers for China, and it was the big beers. You can't really reuse the yeast after you've used some of these 10% beers and stuff like that. So we found something that's a little bit better for our brew house. Still has great results, but is a little bit friendlier for the high octane stuff. Yeah. Yeast strain is important, and I used to sell yeast for a living back in my pre-Behemoth days, and you can have the best hops, you can have the best malt, but if your yeast is crap, your beer's going to be crap. So it's all about using yeast properly.
Great question. I want to say thank you very much to Andrew, to James, to Laura for coming along and sharing their wisdom and sharing their beers with us. Make sure you go and visit their stands, drink the rest of their beers. Some of them are hazy, some of them are not. And listen to the Third Pint Theory, subscribe, like, do whatever those things you do. And we will be back. If you're at tonight's session, we will be back at 7:30 talking to Duncan's Brewing and Three Sisters about the topic of That's Not Beer, with some of these bizarre concoctions which are even more weird than hazies. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming along. Thank you to our brewers. Enjoy the rest of your day.
We're back, and Martin, I'm putting you on the spot. We always talk about desert island beers, and if you were sent to a desert island with a 6-pack on the condition it had to have one hazy in it, have you got one? Have you got a favourite that you would take with you?
I do, actually, and I think it's a callback to a previous episode. I think if people listen to the episode that we did with Andrew Charles and Jason Bathgate, kind of back in the early days, I said I was a big fan of Behemoth Music City.
Okay.
The big mosaic
Very
there.
Yep.
I think mosaic just is a hop that works in a hazy, and I think that was excellent. Recently, I found the Garage Project Sludge Fest. Quite
Interesting. Well, that's actually,
entertaining.
yeah, like, wow, I had that the other night as well, 9.5%.
Yeah.
And it didn't taste like it, I have to say.
No, it hides that 9.5.
Yeah, and it's like I was sharing it with a friend, and his question was, why did they have to make it so boozy? And That's a good question. But for people who haven't had Sludgefest, the gimmick, if you like, is it's made with recycled what would otherwise be waste material from the brewing process, the trube, um, which is all your spent hops and yeast all form a big sludge in the bottom of your uh, kettle. And usually, Martin, when you've home brewed, I know I have, there was always a temptation to, can we squeeze something more out of this? Because it smells
Yeah,
really good. And the
yeah,
advice was always don't, because it'll be really bitter and astringent and horrible. And, you don't want to reuse that material. And somehow Garage Project have found a way to reuse that material, keep the hop sludge, get rid of all the other stuff, inject it back into a new beer and make it taste amazing. And as I said to my mate when we were drinking this, I said, if this had come out on April the 1st, I would have gone, yeah, good one, really funny, haha,
yeah.
nice joke. Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think they're quite sneaky in that. I think it's just the waste products from the dry hopping of the beers, rather. So therefore,
Ah,
the
okay.
yeast
Yes.
content should be pretty much gone by the time that comes along. So I'm not entirely convinced that um, chucking spent yeast back into a beer would be a good
I
idea.
thought they'd figured out a way to sort of spin it out or something, but there you go. So,
Possibly, but I think it's more the kind of on the dry hop side. But it works. Whatever they've done, I thought that the flavour and the aroma were spectacular. I too thought I didn't notice particularly the booze, as in it didn't taste like a 9.5% beer,
no.
but I did get kind of a sweetness, which I think is quite possibly from the alcohol, um, and that
Mm,
was kind of what. I would certainly, I didn't share it with anybody else, and by the
yeah.
end of the glass, it was um, I was noticing the sweetness, but um, I still a great example of what a modern New Zealand hazy beer
Yeah.
can
I
do,
mean,
and I enjoyed it.
yeah. Look, I on the note of picking a favourite, and I would struggle to do this, but I'm going to cheat a little bit and say the the McLeod's 802 series, and because it's always a different one. But I will say that the fresh hop version that they did
Yes.
uh, maybe 2 years ago was amazing. The 40 acre, was it 40 acres?
Mm.
Um, anyway, their fresh hop version is always great. But the latest one, which has a really, it's quite a modern hop profile. It's got Luminosa and Strata and I can't remember the third one, but Luminosa in particular is quite a new hop. I really enjoyed that one. And while I say I'm cheating because it's a series, and also McLeod's don't use the word hazy; it's unfiltered,
Yeah.
but it's hazy. So yeah, that would uh,
And
that
that
would be my
71, the most recent one, I think, was hazier than many. I think, I may, and that obviously is must be a hop related.
or it
Um,
could be a new brewer related
could be.
practice. Who knows? We should ask. But yeah, you're right. It probably was denser than previous versions. But I did note, so Brent McGlashan from Mac Hops went over to Russian River,
Oh yes.
uh, creators of Pliny or Pliny the Elder, depending on how you wish to pronounce it. Um, Famous California brewery, and they brewed a beer as part of they do one every year for the hop grower that they want to pay tribute to. It's the Hop Growers Tribute Series, and it was an IPA brewed with Rewaka, Rakan, Nectaron. and Nelson Sauvin, kind of, if there was a quartet of New Zealand hops that were going to be in a rock band, that would probably be close to it. Raquel might be the, you know, uh,
Ringo
the
Starr.
Ringo Starr. Yes, you took the words out of my mouth. Someone else might have put Motueka in there. Motueka might be Pete Best. Anyway, very good rock band. And look, Brent was kind enough, because I was having a conversation with him, to bring me back a can of this, which he sent to me the other week. And it was really delicious, like, no doubt about it, and a really different expression of New Zealand hops. I think, like, the way they brewed them, they tasted different than I think they would in a New Zealand beer. And I can't put my finger on it, whether it's the size of the brew kit, the water, the yeast, something like that has played a part. Um, but what Brent said, and he said that Vinny, the brewer owner at Russian River, said it turned out way more hazy than a similar American hopped beer would turn out. And these New Zealand hops just threw way more haze than he had anticipated. And
Interesting.
when I poured it, it was quite like a luminous haze would be the best description. And it straddled a line. You couldn't say if it was hazy or not. And on that note, I do think New Zealand hops obviously work really well in hazy beers for the variety of reasons, the flavour first of all, but also their contribution to the haze factor, I guess. So we're uniquely placed to kind of have people create really good ones, and I do think we're quite blessed in that regard.
I think that's a really good point, and we're in danger of extending our time. But I heard something recently. Another podcast that I would recommend that people listen to if you're listening to if you like beer podcasts is the Pellicle podcast from the UK, and
Yes.
they are Matthew Curtis and his team produce some amazing content, and they did a series of they did a podcast with Siren Brewing from the UK, who had done a series of beers. Paying tribute to a particular hop.
Okay.
And
Yep.
one of those was Nelson Southern, and they did that beer. Siren partnered with a brewery for each one, and it was Garage Project for the Southern beer. And one of the during the episode on the Siren Time Hops, I think is the series. They talked about how New Zealand hops play so well in hazy beers. Um, not that I'm suggesting if you've got time to listen to more than one beer podcast,
Yeah.
then make Pellicle your other one.
Yeah. Well, it's coming up to summer. People have all the time in the world, in theory, sitting at the beach or at their batch or wherever. So yeah, why not? And Matthew's a good guy. Palick will do a great job. Um, Sort of very high end beer journalism, I would say. Um,
They
you
just
know,
won the beer publication of the year in the UK. Beat the
yeah.
Times.
Mm, well, that's pretty impressive. Um, yeah, and I do like what Palick will do. And they have I guess they run it like a crowdfunding. They want you to subscribe to support. So it's a reader driven enterprise and quite a risky venture, but I think it's paying off for them because they do such high end content that I'm sure costs them a lot of money. So yeah, good for them and good shout out. I think people can handle more than one pod. I'm sure. Um, if you can't, just stay with us.
Yeah. If you've only got time for one, make this one it.
Yeah, that's right. On that note, speaking of time, we should call it a night on this one, and we will be back before the end of the year with our year ender. So that will be the last in season 1 for the Third Pint Theory. So Martin, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. And we will catch you all again, as I say, either next week or at least before the end of the year. We hope to have it done before Christmas. So as long as we get all our shopping done and our advent calendar beers sorted and what have you, we should be fine. Have you got an advent box?
I do not.
Ah,
I have this kind of philosophical aversion to Advent beer Advent calendars. That I don't want somebody telling me what to drink on a particular day. So I just don't do it. I
all right.
but
Fair
I
enough.
but and if you are enjoying one of the many beer Advent calendars out there, I would love to hear what you think of them.
Yeah, we might actually. I might ask for some votes on the best one because there are a lot. It's
There are.
become a thing. So
Mm.
yes. Anyway, if you're in an advent calendar, enjoy it. If not, enjoy it, and we'll catch you next time. Until then, see you.
Cheers.